Hello and welcome to a product overview and training for the Optomed Aurora IQ handheld non-mydriatic fundus camera. This presentation is meant as an adjunct to and not a replacement for study of the user manual. My name is Kyle Brandt. I'm product manager for the US region. If you have any questions after this presentation, feel free to reach out and I'd love to help. The Aurora carrying case comes packed with everything you need to start taking ophthalmic images. The USB flash drive contains the PC software that handles the transfer of JPEG image files from the camera to a destination folder of choice. Here we can see a closer look at the camera pieces and how they fit together. To navigate the camera menu, the central OptoRoller button can be rotated to select items. It can be pushed in to confirm selections. The power button and back buttons are located on the front of the camera screen, and the shutter button can be found on the handle. Let's get started with the unboxing of the Aurora camera. Attach the optics by aligning the bayonet legs into the holes and firmly yet gently pressing the camera body and lens together. Attach the silicone eye cup to the lens and be careful not to touch the lens glass. To charge the device, the power cable should be firmly attached to underneath the charging station and at the power supply. If using a USB connection, that cable should be firmly connected to the PC workstation. Gently insert a battery into the bottom of the camera. Note that it can only go one way. Dock the camera handle first, then rest the retina lens on the front of the charging station. There is a space for the extra battery to charge in the flat section of the charging station. Leaving the camera batteries plugged in will not harm its performance, which is about 2.5 hours of continuous use without factoring in the battery saving functions that will extend this time. The patient should be seated with the lights dimmed, curtain closed, and patient not facing any windows or computer screens. I recommend the patient and photographer both seated as well. Chairs with armrests and stools with casters are optional but helpful. Have the patient cover one eye not being imaged with their hand, with both eyes open. Use simple instructions for best patient cooperation. I prefer to say things like blink then open wide, focus on the red dot, as it gets their cornea clear with the blinks and their focus on using their eyelid muscles to prevent lashes from obstructing the view. Note that this is the best use with patients with pupil size about 3 millimeters or larger. People with small pupils may need dilation for best results. The following is a concise overview of proper photography technique. The Aurora is very light, but it's important to balance between two hands, with one on the handle ready to press the shutter and the other supporting the front of the lens. The thumb of the front hand is upturned in the ergonomic divot on the retina module. Build a stable base by having both the patient and photographer seated. Use two hands to hold the device with the front hand upturned. Use this front hand to brace fingers on the patient forehead to increase stability. Being stable is one of the most important parts of getting a sharp picture. Some people like to tuck their arms into the side, some like to rest their elbow on a chair rest. We level the camera. The camera should be level on the top or perpendicular to the back of the patient's eye. The line of sight from the photographer should be straight through the camera lens, through the screen to the patient's eye, not looking around the camera to the front of the patient. Trust the image that you're getting on the screen for alignment and know that with proper technique, you won't be touching the patient's eye. On the live IR image, you'll be able to see the iris and pupil of the patient. Center the pupil on screen and slowly move in by pulling with the front thumb of the front hand. This thumb is doing the driving, not the hand that's holding the handle. As we travel through the black pupil, find the gray retina and recenter it as you move in, likely near the top of the pupil, as you notice on this GIF. Fill the frame with gray retina. The aim help circles will turn from red to green when you do. Move in closer about another millimeter. The optimal imaging distance is about 2 centimeters in front of the camera to the patient's eye. Make any micro adjustments with the thumb of the front hand. Due to magnification, only small movements are necessary. If you lose the retina, don't worry. Just back out and try that approach again. Practice these steps when teaching new photographers, centering and approaching the pupil and filling the frame with retina. All of this without taking an image. Practice this approach alignment before moving on to focusing and acquisition, stressing that the front supporting thumb is doing the adjustments and not the arm holding the handle. When aligned, gently depress the shutter halfway to start autofocus. A rectangle on screen will turn from red to green when focus is achieved. Make those final adjustments, hold steady, and depress the shutter button fully to take the picture. Note that you don't want to squeeze the shutter button so hard that you move the camera. Steady is the mantra to take when using the Aurora. You are in control of when to take the picture. Make these little alignment adjustments after gaining the focus and before image capture. After imaging, review the photo. Inspect it for quality, delete and retake if required. Choosing an eye or exiting the preview will save the photo. Some EMR or PACS systems prefer the image that is labeled with the eye side. This might allow those systems to automatically upload and attach photos into the chart. Check with your EMR vendor. The image preview screen is an important part of taking good images and allows for instant feedback of technique. Common image artifacts include a white glare or shadow on the image. This is commonly caused by technique alignment issues. When the artifact is on the bottom of the imaging distance is too far away and should be closer to the patient. Remember, the ideal distance to the patient is about 2 centimeters or 3/4 of an inch from the front of the lens to the patient's eye. This is ever so slightly forward from when the aim help circles turn green. If the artifact is on the top of the image, the alignment is too close and the photographer needs to pull back slightly. If the image is not sharp, check the focus. If the image is washed out or underexposed, the brightness may have to be adjusted down or up, respectively. If desired, the image quality analysis is a setting that can be turned on to show how well you've done in these 3 categories. Brightness, reflections and shadowing, and sharpness are analyzed to assist in the evaluation of the quality of these captured images. The results are shown on the image preview screen with the symbols and with 3 different colors presented on the right. Note that this is the camera doing its best to determine the quality of the image, and an experienced photographer may not need this feedback, as they'll know if a picture is of acceptable quality or not. This image quality analysis can be switched to 3 different sensitivities: basic, strict, and very strict. Reiterate the full technique bullet points when teaching new photographers, which are that 2-hand balance, a level eye line from the screen to the patient, the front hand support on the patient's forehead, centering the pupil, moving in and recentering on that gray retina, filling the frame to get those aim help circles to turn from red to green, finally half pressing that shutter button to gain the focus, and then finally squeezing to take that image and capture it. Note that cataracts, corneal opacities, nystagmus, conditions that cause body movement in small pupils can complicate or prevent imaging. Patients may also be imaged from a supine position from a hospital bed. The photographer must come from a vertical angle with the camera to maintain that perpendicular alignment with the patient's retina. By twisting the OptoRoller joystick during live view, the quick settings menu can be accessed. We recommend the default settings for most staff, which are automatic focus, automatic brightness, and the central fixation target. If using manual focus, keep it on 0 or input the patient's glasses prescription if known, rounded to the nearest full diopter from -20 to +20. In autofocus, the camera finds this correct focus automatically. Manual focus may help in certain cases where view is fleeting and speed is ideal. Brightness. Auto brightness or exposure does a great job and rarely has to be set to manual in cases of under or overexposure. 9 fixation targets covering 70 to 90 degrees. But the center fixation point contains the most important structures: the optic disc, the macula, and the arcades. When using the anterior module, place the eye cup around the patient's eye with the larger silicone bump on the patient's temple, the shorter one towards the nose. Stabilize the camera by supporting the optics module on your thumb and place your fingers on the patient's forehead, similar to the retinal lens. Aim so that the reflection of the imaging light on the eye is outside of the focus window shown on the display. You can see it's in the pupil on my example on screen. Half press the shutter to engage the autofocus. You might have to try multiple half presses to get a sharp image. When satisfied, pull the shutter button and obtain an image. Ask the patient to look in different directions so that different areas can be imaged. Focus. The autofocus has 4 different focus windows that can be selected in the quick settings menu. This little box allows the camera to know where the area of interest is when imaging. Alternatively, manual focus can be chosen that will lock the focal distance, and the distance of the camera will have to be adjusted to find the sharpness focus of the imaging object. Brightness. The LEDs illuminate constantly and there is no flash for external photography. The brightness level can be adjusted manually. This is also the setting to change the LED to cobalt blue light to better capture fluorescein surface staining. The video mode is also available in camera settings. It's recommended to create a new study for each patient. Some workflows may differ, but I'll go over the most common ones here. From the quick menu, select the patient menu and new study. From here, we can pick which type of patient type to choose. New patient study allows the user to enter the patient name and ID. This name can be full name or just initials, whatever the clinic desires. This transforms the user interface of the camera into keyboard mode, with the power button cycling through different characters and cases, and the return button turning into a next function. Once the patient is added, the newly added patient is active and the camera is back in live view, ready for photo acquisition. An anonymous study quickly adds a new patient that cannot be named. It's just the next available's highest number that will be associated. For example, anonymous 7, anonymous 8, etc. Note that you can't go back and select this patient to take additional photos. This area is also where previous patients lie if additional images are required, or if a work list is uploaded into the camera. The 4-image sequence is needed in some workflows or reading centers, where a similar creation of a patient is made, either new patient, anonymous, or patient chosen from the patient list. From here, the camera will guide the user to take the images of both the macula and disc-centered images of both eyes using prompts that are shown on the screen. The Aurora client is the interface between the camera and a workstation. It creates a copy of image files as JPEGs to a destination folder on the PC. It comes prepackaged on the USB stick, has no license fee, and can be installed on as many workstations as needed. It also has a version on the App Store and Play Store for tablets. If DICOM formatting is needed to interface with PACS viewing systems, then Avenue Sync is needed. It connects to the organization's existing DICOM server settings, which can send worklist files to the camera, saves additional demographic information to the image file. This has an additional license fee. Please note that WPA2 personal Wi-Fi 2.4 GHz connections is required if you're planning on using wireless connection. I'll go over my recommended settings for the Aurora client, but note that they should be customized for your specific EMR workflow. Auto-connect and auto-download new images allows the Aurora client to run seamlessly in the background without usually having to interact with it, whether you're using Wi-Fi or USB to connect the camera to your PC. Download location is important. It can be a local PC folder or a networked folder. Create patient's folder setting. The client creates and names this subfolder for each patient name. For example, the name, the ID, the date, and the time. This does not affect the image names, which are still HIPAA friendly. Files can also be manually downloaded to that destination folder when we choose in the client settings. Select them and click Download Now. The camera settings are detailed in depth inside the user manual, but let's quickly give them an overview. Reset. This restores the factory settings, but patient studies and work lists, users, and date and time still persist. Erase image memory. This easily deletes all images, videos, and work lists. The date and time can be set manually or automatic time sync, which needs an internet connection. The camera information contains software version, WLAN software version, the hardware version, and the camera serial number. The start query. This setting changes what the camera does as default upon startup or when picked up from the charging station. These can be erase image memory, new study, 4-image sequence, or no query, which is a live view immediately on the last patient. Quick imaging turns off that preview screen following acquisition. Half-press capture, the camera acquires images immediately instead of holding on autofocus. Capture mode can be changed from still to video. Additional image is a red-free image, uses only the green channel to process the image in addition to the full color image. Capture settings in image. The brightness and diopter are written in the lower right-hand corner of the image. IR contrast stretching. The IR live view brightness and contrast adjust to live image. This is off by default. IR image. Only an IR image is saved and not a color photo. Image quality analysis. See the previous slide that we talked about earlier. Centering. Adjust this image area / view area. Multiple users can be designated with their own passcodes upon the use of camera, if you're desired. If the performance of the Aurora IQ camera is abnormal, it can be forced to shut down by pressing and holding the power and back buttons simultaneously for 7 seconds or longer. This is called a hard reset and should be the first thing to try when troubleshooting. The Aurora IQ can store thousands of images, but as the camera memory gets full, the performance can dip. We recommend deleting photos to free up memory space on the device. Resetting the camera settings may clear errors. If the camera is unable to save images to the PC folder, there's a couple things we can try. Check your connection. If using USB, ensure that it is firmly plugged in at both the charging station and the PC. Ensure that mass storage devices are allowed to access the PC. And when using a wireless connection, the camera needs a 2.4 GHz WPA2 personal network connection. Ensure that you've used the correct case when entering passwords using the camera menu. Note that lowercase letters and symbols can be found by pressing the power button when in keyboard view. If new images are not being automatically downloaded, you may have to manually push them from the camera using the Aurora client software. This usually fixes the issue and future images should automatically download as expected. And lastly, make use of all those extra resources that we provide. The user manual has a lot of good information for you to review. And where can you find these resources, you might ask? Printed copies should be included in the sales case, as well as digital copies on the USB drive. Additional resources like a training video, cleaning guide, and others can be found online at our customer portal. Let us know if there's anything else you need. Thank you, and have a great day.